bracelets on her arms. I remember that.
Make sure these get tagged, he tells Sanchez. Yes, sir. The wind shifts, blowing smoke in their direction. Good bats the air with his hand, then carries the purse to the end of the alley where the street light is better, and at least they can breathe. He sets the bag on the hood of a cruiser and digs inside, as the scent of musky perfume battles with the smell of smoke. He finds messy makeup containers, a hairbrush, cigarettes. You think the purse was planted? Dawes asks. Seems awfully handy that it was just left here.
Could be, he says. Or maybe it's a message. Squires' supplier hurting his girlfriend, trying to flush him out. Or it could be Squires himself. Maybe she double-crossed him.
Maybe.
But what about those bags the kid said she had with her? Any sign of those? Nothing so far. Maybe robbery was a motive.
Could be. But they left behind a brand new iPhone and $60 in cash.
He shows her the other items he found in the bag. He looks back down the alley, wondering if Ms. Ogilvy met her match tonight. A crime scene investigator heads over, wearing a white coverall and wet booties. She pulls down her mask, revealing brown eyes, a prominent nose.
Did you locate the body?
He asks. Nothing so far, sir. It's still too hot to get inside. It's going to take at least a day or two to sift through this mess. Doesn't help that we've got all kinds of bones and animal tissue in there from the butcher shop. Good nods, looking back at the smoking bin. He expects they'll find dental remains in the next day or two, when this will officially become a murder investigation. Right now, there's enough evidence to move ahead as if it is. He addresses the others gathered around him.
This guy's panicked or stupid, or both. If he's left something behind, I want every piece of garbage turned over for 10 blocks until we find it.
He watches as the team spreads out. He hates the term crime of passion. It sounds too romantic. But there's something not sitting right with him. He looks down at the iPhone and goes to power it up, but then stops. There's something smeared on the screen. It looks like dried blood. He swipes the glass to engage it and checks the last number dialed.
Chapter 54. Rick. Thursday night. He stands in front of the bathroom mirror of the motel, tending to his wounds, the fluorescent light discoloring his skin yellow-green. His shoulder aches, but it's manageable. Better than yesterday. At least the throbbing has subsided and he can rotate his arm. He's healing. The headaches have stopped too. Wincing, he pats a last piece of tape over the fresh gauze, then checks his reflection more closely. Perspiration films his forehead, his upper lip. The dye job is holding up, but his blonde stubble is coming through. He should shave before tomorrow. The muddy blare of a bullhorn makes him flinch. He snaps off the bathroom light. A smear of noise clutches at his heart. Sirens, yelling, pounding. Blue and red lights strobe outside the bedroom window, making the thin drapes glow like drive-in screens. He dashes out of the bathroom, sliding against the wall, moving quickly. He switches off the TV as he passes, the only light in the room. He grabs his gun and a fresh ammo clip and spins toward one side of the window, dropping to a crawl, his shoulders screeching with pain. The voices are clearer now. "Step out of the room!" He straightens, flattening his back against the wall, snapping the fresh magazine into the gun. He leans toward a crack in the drapes, sees chaos in the parking lot, hears sirens as more cruisers pull up, screeching to a halt. Fuck! How did they find him? Thumping on the concrete walk outside the door as shadows fly by the window. Was it Cassie's phone? He sees it sitting on the dresser across the room, the earbuds curled. Can they trace a smartphone without a SIM card? They must have been able to. A commanding baritone from outside. "Step out of the room! Walk back toward the sound of my voice!" He braces himself, his fingers slippery on the trigger, the safety off. He leans toward the break in the curtains, training his gun barrel on the parking lot outside. There are a dozen uniforms, a wall of cruisers behind them. But the cops aren't looking in his direction. Their guns all point toward a room farther down. Rick almost laughs. They're not even here for him. "Keep your hands up! Walk back toward me!" He sees a skinny white guy with no shirt walking backward toward the line of cops. The man is drunk, stumbling, barefoot. "On your knees!" When the man doesn't obey, they rush at him. He resists, struggling, yelling. It takes 3 uniforms to push him down to the asphalt and cuff him. Rick smirks as they shove the guy into a cruiser and slam the door. The next few minutes are a sheer delight, watching the police officers clap one another on the back, get in their cars, drive away, leaving darkness and silence in their wake. It's a comedy acted out just for him. When they're gone, he moves away from the window, heads toward the dresser and Cassie's iPhone. He powers it up, seeing the cover of her friend's album on the screen. SIM card or not, it's still too much of a risk. He lifts the butt of his gun and drives it down onto the glass. The screen shatters, mineral veins of white slashing through the image of the blonde at the grand piano.
Chapter 55. Beth. Late Thursday night. Loud pounding on the front door wakes Beth up. Bang, 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 bang. She sits up and squints at the clock. It's after 2 a.m. Jay's side of the bed is empty. Bang, 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 bang. Gruff shouting that she can't quite make out. She sees blue and red lights flashing against the curtains. Her heart constricts with panic. Bang, bang, bang. She grabs her robe, turning on lights as she makes her way through the house. She hears shouting now, too. "LAPD, open up!" "I'm coming," she calls, her voice crackling with nerves. She gets to the living room. Jay is passed out on the sofa, both bottles of wine on the coffee table, one of them empty. She nudges him awake, and he groans. "Get up," she hisses. His eyes open, blinking. Bang, 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 bang. He sits up, rubbing his head, groggy. What the hell was in that stuff? Jay, get up. The police are here, she says, hurrying into the kitchen. What? Bang, bang, bang. He stumbles up from the couch and joins her by the door. What happened? I don't know. Is it her? Is she in trouble? I hope not, Beth whispers, her hand trembling as she reaches for the lock. She sees more than one silhouette through the blinds, tall shadows, shifting. She glances at Jay, her eyes round with tension. He shrugs, looking just as surprised. She leans toward the door but doesn't open it. Yes? May I help you? A man's voice is muffled. Detective Francis Good of the LAPD, ma'am. Does Jason Montgomery live here? Beth frowns at Jay, who goes rigid with fear. Yes? We'd like to speak to him for a moment. She moves to unlatch the door, but he stops her. Check his ID first, he whispers. She opens the door a crack and sees the detective's badge already offered. There are 2 uniformed officers standing behind him. Beth rides out a wave of fear, takes another deep breath, and opens the door.
Chapter 56. Good. Late Thursday night. As he steps into the kitchen, Good notices the modern perfection of the place, everything gleaming and showy. He turns to the couple, who stare at him with open confusion. I'm Detective Francis Good with LA Homicide, he says. The woman goes pale as a picket fence. The man looks stunned, blinking at them. This is Officer Layton and Officer Sanchez. He motions to the 2 burly officers thumping in behind him. He turns to the man. Are you Jason Montgomery? Yeah, he says, nodding. Jay, actually. People Call me Jay. Good observes him for a moment. So you want me to call you Jay, is that it? It doesn't matter, you can call me... He tries to back off the ridiculous cocktail party banter. What's going on, sir? There it was. Feigned politeness. Layton and Sanchez walk farther into the kitchen, their heavy shoes clumping. Do you know Cassandra Ogilvy? He asks, holding up the driver's license. Yes, she's a friend of ours. The woman wavers on her feet, leaning into her husband. Is everything okay? When's the last time you saw her? She squints, holding her head. This morning, but we spoke on the phone about, She looks up at her husband. 7:30, maybe? Does she live here? No. The woman's blue eyes fill with tears. She's an old friend. She's been staying with us for a few days. She puts a hand on his arm, clinging. Please, tell us, what happened? Is she okay? That's what we're trying to find out, ma'am, he says, measuring how to share the news. We have reason to suspect foul play. A sob escapes from her throat, and she covers her mouth, as if it were some bodily function she should be ashamed of. The man tenses up even more, his jaw muscle working. You mind if we take a look around? But even as he says it, they've started spreading out, moving through the kitchen, into the living room, observing what is in plain sight. The woman stares blankly ahead, waxen, in shock. But the man appears territorial, glancing around. Don't you need a warrant or something? He asks, a fake laugh in his voice. No, actually, not if you're cooperative. And you look like a cooperative guy, Jay. Good gives him a crooked grin. Have either of you seen or heard anything unusual tonight? Any strangers in the neighborhood or... Excuse me, sir. Layton walks over, holding an ashtray. There's what's left of a large joint sitting in the ashes. Jay steps in. Hey, that's not ours. We never do that stuff. Hardly ever, anyway. Good gives him a dubious look, making a show of it, reaching in his pocket for a black latex glove, shaking it out, slipping it over his fingers. He plucks the roach from the ashtray, brings it to his nose, smells it, raises an eyebrow, drops it inside an evidence bag. You got any other illicit substances in the house? He asks, his voice lowering an octave. Any needles? Weapons? Of course not, he insists. It's legal anyway, and it's not even ours. It's true, the woman says. She left it. Cassie's the one who... But she can't finish, touching her head, wincing as if she's in physical pain. Wait, Jay volunteers. Some guy called for her tonight, from the Omni Plaza Hotel. That's right, says Beth. I think Cassie was supposed to meet him somewhere. I tried to take a message, but he hung up. It was around the same time, 7:30 or so? We'll run a check on your phone records, if you don't mind. Of course, she says. Mrs. Montgomery, please show the officers where your friend was staying. I'm afraid we have to search her room. She took all her things with her. Still, it might help. She nods, unsteady on her feet, leading the other men down the hall. There's some place we can talk, Jay? Sure. He motions to a leather chair, taking a seat on the couch himself, looking around, unable to make eye contact for more than a second at a time. Good notices the chair is on an odd angle and he has to straighten it before he sits down. So, your wife said she talked to her friend around 7:30 tonight. Did you speak with her? No. When's the last time you saw her? This afternoon, I guess. 4, maybe? Something like that? What time did she leave the house? I don't know. I was passed out. He frowns. I had a nap, I mean. I work from home and it's a busy time for me. What do you do, Mr. Jay? I'm a film producer. Yeah? His tone lightens. I love movies. Done anything I'd know? Not really, or probably not. But we've got Mila Jovovich attached for our next project. Mila? I like her. Resident Evil. Great flick. Right.
But she's been in a lot of other things, too.
That's true.
Good reaches in his pocket for the evidence bag and holds it between them.
Is this your mobile phone?
Yes, it is. He goes to grab it, but Good pulls it back.
Please don't touch it.
But I need my phone.
So do we. For another day or two.
It's evidence. Good loves the effect the word evidence has on people. Even innocent people.
It appears there's blood on it.
Good holds up the bag, revealing the smear on the screen.
Well, it's not mine. You just said it was.
I mean, the phone's mine, but the blood's not. She stole that anyway. She didn't even ask. Is that how you found me?
Found you?
The phone. Good watches him for a moment.
We traced the number to this address, so yes, that's how we found you. You mind if we run through the recent calls with you?
Sure. He rubs his hands together, clamping them between his thighs.
Sure you mind, or?
No. Go ahead.
Thank you.
He consults his notebook.
There were 2 outgoing calls to a Karen Burns yesterday morning.
Yes, I called her. She's my business partner.
1 incoming call from Beth Montgomery at 2:43. That would be your wife?
Yeah. Good notices his Adam's apple bob as he swallows.
You called your father, John Montgomery, at 4:23 p.m.
What? My dad? No, I didn't talk to him yesterday.
Well, somebody called him from your phone. The outgoing call was almost 5 minutes long.
Are you saying she called him? From my cell? Cassie?
It appears so.
The man frowns at the thought of Ogilvy talking to his father.
Interesting.
But he sputters. What does it matter anyway, if she talked to my dad or not?
It all matters at this point.
He sighs. Yes, of course, sorry.
There's another call to your wife's cell around 7:30. She mentioned that one.
Yeah, Cassie said she forgot something.
Did you speak with her?
No. Good keeps his pen poised over his notebook, but watches the man carefully.
How long have you known Ms. Ogilvy, Jay?
3 years or so?
Good jots that down. How'd you meet?
At a friend's party.
She stay here often?
No, just this once. I never even laid eyes on her before this week.
Okay, either I'm confused or you are. I thought you said you met her 3 years ago.
I met Beth 3 years ago. Sorry, are we talking about Cassie or my wife? Good lets a moment pass.
We're talking about the missing person, Miss Ogilvy.
Oh yeah, right. I met her just the other night. She came here, Tuesday night. Listen, do you mind if I get something to drink? My throat's a little dry.
Not at all.
He stands up and moves toward the kitchen, then hangs back. Sorry, you want something?
Got any Gatorade?
No.
Then I'm fine, thanks.
Good watches him walk into the kitchen and pour himself water. He notices a CD case on the coffee table and picks it up. Sees the blonde woman on the cover, sitting at a grand piano. Beth Crawford, the lotus flower. He raises an eyebrow, impressed. There are bottles and wine glasses on the table, crumpled papers in a pile. Then something metallic glinting beneath the couch gets his attention. A gun? He angles his head to get a better look. Jay comes back into the living room with a glass of water. Sorry, he says, sitting down, trying to smile. I don't know what's... But Good interrupts him, holding out a hand. I don't want you to reach for it, Mr. Montgomery, he instructs, back to last names. But what's that under the couch? What? He leans over to look. I said don't reach for it. Just tell me what it is. It's just a stapler, he huffs, grabbing it anyway, plopping it on the table. I was working and I got frustrated and dropped some things today. Frustrated about what? He sighs loudly, but doesn't answer. Good watches as the man keeps glancing around the room, his hands working together between his knees.
You okay, Jay? You seem nervous, you don't mind my saying.
Do I?
Very.
Well, the cops are here, he says with a tense laugh. That could put a guy on edge.
True, but there you go again. The fidgeting, the sweaty brow. You sure you don't have something to tell me?
No. He wipes his forehead with the back of his hand.
I'm just saying, I'm trained to pick up on things like that. If you're hiding something, and it seems to me you are, it'll be much better for you if you just come clean now.
Jay looks toward the hall, swallowing loudly.
Jay, if you know something that might help us find your friend, it's a very serious crime to keep it from us. A felony.
The man takes a deep breath, steeling himself.
Good waits. You could be charged with obstruction, tried, jail time, the whole...
Actually, I do have something to tell you. He says it quickly, like air escaping from a balloon.
I thought so.
But I don't want my wife to know.
I won't tell her.
You sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
This afternoon, something happened. Me and Beth, he shakes his head. I mean, me and Cassie. Good notices him glance down the hall one more time. We had, Jay finally decides on a word. Relations, he whispers.
Good lets a beat pass. Intercourse?
Jay nods guiltily.
You and Miss Ogilvy?
He nods again.
When?
Today. I mean, what time is it? Yesterday. Yesterday afternoon.
Where?
Here.
Here? Good motions to the couch.
No, in the bedroom.
Her bedroom?
He shakes his head, guilty again.
You and your wife's bedroom.
Good doesn't bother to keep the derision out of his voice. Jay nods, and Good makes a note. Don't write that down. But he keeps jotting. Does this explain the shifty eyes, the trembling hands?
An affair? You say your wife doesn't know?
God, no. And I don't want her to. His voice is a desperate whisper. I'm just telling you because if she's been hurt or, something like that, and you find a body and there's DNA or semen or whatever, maybe it's mine.
Good chance of that, he says. Why? You kill her?
God, no, Jay blurts. Of course not. Good doesn't say anything at first, just watches the man. I'm telling you the truth. I didn't touch her.
Now, that's not true, is it?
I mean, I didn't hurt. His voice halts in his throat. He blinks, staring again.
Mr. Montgomery?
Sorry? You were saying you didn't hurt her. He swallows again, so long and hard, Good feels he's watching a snake digest a rat. No, I didn't. I didn't hurt her. I don't even know where she went. Good continues jotting. Does this look bad?
I'm afraid so.
Well, I swear I didn't do anything to her. You gotta believe me. I wouldn't lie about a thing like that. Good looks up, a small grin on his face.
Not about a thing like that, huh?
Chapter 57. Beth. Late Thursday night. Beth stands in the doorway as the two officers move about the guest room. Tall, broad-shouldered men who make the house seem so small. The dirty ashtray is still there, the empty beer bottles. She hasn't tidied up yet, and it embarrasses her. But the rest of the room seems echoic, vacant, except for the lingering smell of Cassie's stale perfume. I think she took her things with her when she left, she says. The men nod, clumping around. Why is she so cold? She pulls her robe around her more tightly, glancing at the unmade bed, remembering Cassie sitting cross-legged on it, rolling joints, singing to herself. Is this really happening? Sanchez picks up a blow-dryer from the desk. Is this hers? Just took a shower. Borrowed your blow-dryer. Hope you don't mind. I'm sorry, no, she says, reaching out with a shaking hand. It's mine. God, it sounded so pointless. Why not just let them take it? She doesn't know what to say. It's my only blow dryer? How stupid. Jesus, Beth. What the hell did that mean compared with everything else? She shouldn't have even mentioned it. What's wrong with her? But the officer hands her the appliance just the same, as if it were some piece of her old friend. Beth imagines Cassie's hand wrapped around it, her long, dark hair fluttering as she used it. Then Cass bent over in the dorm room, fluffing her hair, or in the bathroom that summer, brushes and makeup everywhere as they got ready to go to a club. "We need something with her fingerprints on it," says Layton. Beth points to the beer bottle on the nightstand. Jesus, she's so damned cold. Shivering as if she's been locked out of the house and left to wait in the snow after school. "Can we take this too?" One of the officers lifts the ashtray, overflowing with butts and burnt roaches. Beth nods, watching as he slides the entire mess into an evidence bag. She can't do this anymore. She can't watch the police stand in her extra bedroom, bagging and tagging what little her friend left behind. "Excuse me," she says, and hurries down the hall to the master bedroom. Gasping for air, she closes the door, runs to the bed, and sits down. She's still holding the blow dryer. It suddenly feels as if it's on fire. She has to put it down. She remembers seeing her friend in that dim bar with the pool tables. The smile on her face. Got up on the wrong side of the bed like 5 years ago. Haven't slept since. How did a few drinks with an old friend turn into this nightmare? Police crawling all over the house. Cassie God knows where right now. She leans forward, putting her head in her hands. She hasn't even seen the girl in 12 years. They hadn't stayed friends. She hadn't even wanted to stay friends with Cassie. She always made life so complicated, always taking them to the edge of disaster like this. Now Beth is part of it too. And yet, she has to admit, she hasn't felt this alive in as long as she can remember. She's always lived in a world where Cassie lived, even when they weren't together. She's always been aware of Cassie, always so connected to her. God, what a dull, throbbing void life had been without her all this time, like the atmosphere on Mars. Looking back, Beth realizes everything she's done in her own life has been a shadow, all of it in response to that 1 year with Cass. It didn't matter that they hadn't talked for more than a decade. Best friends were best friends. When Cass showed up, trouble on her heels, that's when Beth was finally reminded who she really is.
Chapter 58. Good. Late Thursday night. Good walks slowly down the hall to the back of the house. He notices things when he moves slowly, things he might not if he were always in a rush. He sees the happy wedding photos on the walls, oil paintings that don't look like garage sale finds. He hears Layton and Sanchez in the bedroom at the end of the hall and leans in. "Don't touch anything else," he says. He doesn't want to screw anything up with an illegal search. "We'll get a warrant and come back in the morning. We could lose him." "Yes, sir." But Good's not sure who he's afraid to lose anymore, Squires or the nervous husband. The detective knocks lightly on the door to the master bedroom. There's a muffled voice. "Come in." He opens the door to find her sitting on the side of the bed, facing away from him, but he can see her reflection in a full-length mirror in front of her. "You okay to answer some questions, Mrs. Montgomery?" "I think so," she says, her voice sounding stuffy. He steps into the room, closing the door. As he moves to the bedside, he notices the matching drapes and pillow shams, the sparkling bathroom through an open door. Great care and a good deal of money seems to have gone into the decorating. But he also notices the twisted bed sheets, and he remembers the husband's words. "We had relations." When he circles the bed, she finally looks up at him. Her blue eyes are round and glassy, her skin reddened around her nose. There's a crumpled tissue balled in one hand, a box of Kleenex on the nightstand. Beside it, he notices a framed photograph, recognizing Beth as a younger girl. A beautiful white mansion in the background. A happy family photograph, like the ones in the hallway. Good knows it's not fair, but he doesn't trust happiness. Families were messy business. The odds you'd end up in one where everyone got along were about 1,000,000,000 to 1.
I keep expecting her to walk in the door, she says vaguely.
I'm sorry?
He steps to the window, glances out. It's just that she always stayed out late. You could never tell what she was up to. But something happened to her, didn't it? Something bad?
I'm afraid it looks that way, Mrs. Montgomery.
He takes out his notebook, pulls up a chair, angles it near her.
Your husband said she came here Tuesday night. Did she stay with you often?
No, actually. I haven't seen her in years. Not since college, anyway. We didn't keep in touch.
You haven't seen her in that long, and you let her stay in your house?
She sighs. I know, but we were roommates back then. She was always a little wild. I used to feel responsible for her. Still do, I guess.
She shrugs helplessly.
When she didn't have a place to stay, I thought, why not? We have the room. She looks down at the Kleenex shredded in her hands. Good picks up the box and holds it out for her. She grabs a fresh tissue, thanking him silently. He puts the box down on the nightstand, and the photograph catches his eye again. Is it fake happiness or real happiness in front of that enormous white mansion? He'd need to be there. He would be able to tell if he'd been there. It's just so awful, she says. I still can't believe it. I always knew she was trouble, but this? He nods, trying to seem understanding, to be patient, when he feels anything but right now.
How long was she supposed to stay with you?
Until Friday. Today, actually. I'm sorry it's so late. But then she left early. I think to meet that man who called. She wasn't sure when she was coming back. A friend of hers was supposed to pick her up. They were going to Monterey. Cass had a gig.
Gig?
She's a singer. Wait! She snaps her fingers. She called this woman from my cell. Her name was... She tries to think, closing her eyes. And then it comes to her. Lily. Yes, Lily. She was supposed to take Cass to Monterey. Maybe she knows something.
You got a last name?
She shakes her head. Sorry, no.
Mind if we run a check on your cell records?
Go ahead, yes, if it helps.
Good reaches in his pocket for the mugshot of Rick Squires. Do you recognize this man? He asks, passing her the photograph.
She holds it for a moment, her hand shaking. She studies the straggly, fair hair, the patchy beard, the blue eyes. I don't know. Maybe. He looks a little familiar.
You might have seen his face on the news.
I guess? I'm not sure. She hands the photo back. Who is he?
His name's Richard Squires. He's a convicted felon. Not a nice guy. He's the focus of our investigation into your friend's... He's about to say death, but stops himself. Disappearance, he finishes. We think he's gotten her involved in some serious trouble. She frowns at him. You heard about the shootings in Lawrence Heights, where an undercover cop was killed?
Yes, I remember.
Squires was at the scene. By all accounts, he should have been apprehended, or dead at least, but he escaped. We know he's armed and dangerous. We think Ms. Ogilvy was involved in the incident too.
She narrows her eyes on him. What do you mean, involved? How?
That's question number 1 on a pop quiz that gets longer every second that goes by. We ran a routine check on your friend's Visa card, just to trace her movements over the last while. He consults his notes. According to their records, she made a few cash withdrawals recently, including one for $2,200. And my dead guys were found in a rental house that required a deposit of $2,200, cash. The house was rented under a phony name, but we're pretty sure Ms. Ogilvy was involved.
Because she withdrew some money? Her tone is dubious.
Not just that. He consults his notebook again. In the days leading up to the shooting, she picked up some items at a Walgreens 2 blocks from the scene. Hair dye, rubber gloves, window cleaner, paper towels.
That doesn't sound like Cass.
Those last items are used to clean drug houses.
I see,
she says quietly. She also stopped at a wig shop on Wilshire, where she spent $85.99 on a blonde wig. And the landlady rented the house to a blonde woman. All that is circumstantial, of course, but we also have her fingerprints in a vehicle where an attempted homicide took place Monday night. And we have a witness who can identify her as leaving with the victim.
Cassie hurt somebody?
We believe so. There's an arrest warrant out for her in connection with the shooting.
My God.
Her eyes, already glassy with emotion, drop tears as she shakes her head in disbelief. But our main concern right now is her connection to Squires. He's considered armed and dangerous, and we have reason to believe he'll be after your friend. Be careful, is all I'm saying. He hands her his card. You call if you see or hear anything unusual. Anything at all.
She nods, his card trembling like a leaf in her hand.
Chapter 59. Jay. Late Thursday night. Jay takes off his shirt in the bedroom and stares at the unmade bed. It's after 4 a.m. The police have just left. Beth is in the adjoining bathroom, her voice echoing against the tiles. "It's so awful," she says. "And to think she was just here, in our bed." Jay flinches. "What?" She comes into the room, looking exhausted, rubbing cream on her hands. "I mean, that she was just here last night, sleeping in our house." She shivers, taking off her robe, her blue nightgown beneath. "I think something happened to her, Jay. The cops do too. I knew she was in some kind of trouble. I had a feeling." But then her tone changes, becoming sharp and accusatory. "Why the hell did you let her leave the house?" "Excuse me? She doesn't know LA well. Why did you let her leave by herself?" "I didn't even know she left. I was passed out." He looks back at the unmade bed, remembering her passion and her skin and her lips and her breasts and her legs. I couldn't have stopped her anyway. Her voice and her hands and her tongue and her... But it's only smears of images twisting in his mind now, like the aftershocks of a nightmare. "You're right," she says, sighing. "I'm sorry. Nobody could ever stop Cass from doing what she wanted." She drops to the edge of the bed and grabs another Kleenex, sniffling and blowing her nose. "What were you and that detective talking about before he left?" He's still staring at the bed. "Jay? He wants me to go down to the station tomorrow morning." "What for?" She frowns, waiting. An unbearable silence floods the room. "Jay, what is it?" When he finally speaks, it's not even his voice he hears. "We have to talk, Beth," he says. He goes to the bed, kneeling in front of her, taking her hands in his. He tries to think how he'll tell her. He has to come clean with her. He doesn't have a choice now. If he tries to cover it up and she finds out somehow, it'll be even worse. That detective might tell her anyway. And then what? "Beth," he begins, "you have to believe me. I didn't kill her." "I know that," she says, laughing with nervous surprise. She watches him a moment. "Jay, what's wrong?" He looks down, unable to meet her eyes. He won't tell her everything. He can't. "Jay? Yesterday, something happened with Cassie," he begins. "What happened?" she asks. He closes his eyes and forces himself to speak. Cassie and me, But he can't finish. He doesn't know how. "What are you saying, Jay?" He watches her features sag, her eyes fill with tears. "What are... you and Cass?" He doesn't even nod. just looks at her, waiting for her to understand. Realization floods over her, and she stands up in a rage, yanking her hands from his. "Jesus Christ, Jason!" she yells. She only uses his full name when she's furious, and she is. Her chest heaves, her cheeks bloom red. "What are you telling me?" she demands. That you fucked her?" He looks down in shame. "Are you kidding me?" He still can't look at her. "Where?" He doesn't answer. "Tell me where!" She stomps her foot. He can't help himself. He glances at the bed. "Here?" she screeches. "In our bed?" He still can't face her, but he doesn't have to answer. She knows. "Jesus Christ!" she says, bristling with rage. "What are you telling me?" She grabs her head, begins to pace. "I can't be hearing this! This can't be happening!" Jay forces himself to look up at her, but the fury in her eyes is excruciating. He's never seen her this angry before. Not about money, not about his folks, not about work. "Oh my God! I keep expecting things to get better, and every minute I spend in this marriage, it just keeps getting worse. I knew it! I knew if I got you two together, this would—" But he interrupts her. "I didn't hurt her, Beth. I swear. If something happened to her, it's not my fault." "That's supposed to make me feel better?" she shrieks. She begins stripping the sheets, tearing them off the bed. He joins her, trying to stop, trying to help. He doesn't even know. "You prick," she says bitterly. "I always knew you were going to do this to me. I always knew it. But I thought it would be Karen or Emily or somebody, not my best. Beth, come on, please." He tries to grab her, but she pulls away from him. "I hope you had fun," she yells. "I hope it was worth it." "You have to calm down," he says, reaching for her again. "Do not touch me." She yanks away angrily, on the verge of tears. "Do not come near me. The two of you can have each other. Fuck both of you." She storms out of the room with the dirty sheets, Jay following on her heels. In the laundry room, she throws the sheets into the washer. He comes to stand in the doorway. He feels so tired, he has to lean against the door jamb to hold himself up. "Beth, please calm down. We have to talk about this. I could be in trouble." "You're damned right you're in trouble." She dumps in the detergent. "No, I mean, that detective. That's why he wants me to go to the station, to give a DNA sample." "DNA?" She slams the lid closed. "What for?" "Because he knows." "Good?" He nods, ashamed. "You told him?" "I had to." "Why? Why did you have to say anything?" She jams the controls on the machine and pushes past him out of the room. "Tell the cops something like that. Are you insane?" "What choice did I have?" He follows her to the linen closet. "He said if I didn't tell them everything I knew, they'd charge me with obstruction of justice or something. And if she's dead somewhere and they find her, they can do those tests, you know? They'd find out I was with her anyway." "How?" He doesn't answer. "Jay, how would they—" And then she understands. You didn't use a condom?" Jay lets out a frustrated sigh, and it's answer enough for her. He sees her actually buckle over, holding her stomach, as if someone just kicked her. She leans against the wall for a moment, seeming in agony, but then she grits her teeth, and the anger forces her up again. "Are you crazy?" she screams. "Do you have any idea where that girl's been, or the people she's involved with? How could you do that? How could you be so stupid?" I know. And he does feel stupid, like an idiot. He thought he'd made mistakes before. In college, he was such a prick, always so arrogant, such a bully, so many mistakes. All the women, all the stupid decisions, the drunken parties, the laughter, the anger, that horrible night with Jill or Jen or whatever the hell her name was. But it's nothing compared with this. "You're going to have to go to the doctor," she says. She opens the linen closet, reaching blindly for fresh sheets. Just to be safe, you'll need an STD test and... Suddenly, his blue gym bag tumbles out of the closet onto the floor, thumping at their feet. Beth leaps out of the way just in time. Jay looks down at the familiar bag. "What the fuck is that doing in there?" he asks, chills flooding his body. "You didn't put it there?" He shakes his head. "I haven't used it since I canceled my gym membership." "I don't get it. Why would she hide your gym bag in there?" "Who knows? But she said she forgot something, right?" He gives it a light shove with his foot. The bag is packed to the seams, and it's been empty for months. What the hell was Cassie up to? Some crazy head game? He bends down to open it up. "Jay, careful. Maybe we shouldn't touch anything." But he ignores her, unzipping the bag, pushing the flaps apart. They both freeze. The bag is crammed with large rolls of cash wrapped in elastic bands. "Jesus," Beth breathes. Jay pulls out one of the rolls, his hands shaking. It's all $100 bills. He's never seen anything like it before. It takes him a moment to process it, but when he does, my God. His head begins to spin as if he's floating up into the clouds. He digs back into the bag, rooting through yet more thick rolls of bills. It's packed so densely he can't feel the bottom. "Beth, there's a lot of money here." "Why would she have that much cash on her? Where did she get that kind of money? Is it that drug deal thing the police talked about?" "Who cares?" he says. He picks up the bag and carries it down the hall.
Chapter 60. Beth. Late Thursday night. Beth follows him into the living room as he checks the window, peering into the night. He's acting so furtive, yet it seems natural to him. He's excited by this, energized. The bastard. "Jay, what are you doing?" He twists the blinds closed. "Get the kitchen." "What?" "The blinds in the kitchen." "Jay, don't scare me. We have to—" "Just do it," he orders, glaring at her. The look in his eyes, so cold and demanding. Hours after he cheated on her with her best friend. Did she know this man at all? But she doesn't argue, going into the kitchen and closing the blinds, hurrying back to the living room. Jay sits on the couch, pulling money out in fistfuls, setting it on the coffee table. Some of the packets are spattered with reddish-brown droplets. "Wait, Jesus, Jay, is that blood?" She hears her own voice rising in panic, but he doesn't answer. He doesn't seem to care, the way he didn't care about having sex with Cassie. He doesn't seem to care about her or anything else anymore, except money. He keeps grabbing handfuls, stacking it on the table. "Jay, we can't keep it," she says firmly. "It's not ours. We have to call the police. Good told me Cassie might be involved with what happened at that drug thing the other night. Where all those men were shot? The money's probably got something to do with that." "You don't know that for sure." "But what if someone comes for it?" "Who's gonna come for it?" He goes back to rifling through the bag. "Shit, Beth. There's gotta be 800 grand in here. Maybe more." A smile builds on his face, making him look almost crazed. It frightens her, as if he could hurt her after all. Or Cassie. She always knew he was selfish, maybe even stupid sometimes, but she didn't know he was filled with such darkness and greed. He suddenly seems capable of anything. Cheating, stealing, even violence. "Stop it, Jason," she urges him. "Something's happened to her. I just know it, and it's got something to do with this money." "Maybe, but she's not some innocent little flower girl. She was researching goddamn Glocks on my laptop." "What?" "Guns. She was researching guns." Her hand trembles as she covers her mouth. "God, Jay. Good said she was wanted in some kind of shooting this week. We have to tell him about all this." "No, we don't. It's not our problem." I don't want to get involved. You're already involved. We both are. We could get dragged down with her. We have to call him now. She reaches for the phone, but he lunges at her and grabs her wrist, squeezing hard enough that she flinches in pain. What's wrong with you? You're hurting me. She yanks away from him, rubbing the pink imprints on her skin. But he's pried the phone from her hand, setting it down. I'm sorry, he says. I'm sorry. We just gotta think about this first. It's a tone of voice she's never heard him use before, sharp and calculating. He goes to the bar, pours a drink, gulps it all back. He doesn't look at her as he paces the room in tight turns. She watches him stride back and forth. Jay, listen to me. Good says Cassie was with some felon. He could be out there right now, waiting to kill us. Don't be paranoid, Beth. We need this money. Yeah, but I don't want to die for it. We're not going to die, he yells, loud enough that the walls seem to vibrate. It makes her jerk with surprise. If somebody knew where this money is, we wouldn't have it right now. We'd already be dead. So just calm down. I have to think. Trembling, she sits on the couch, still rubbing her wrist, wondering what he could do next. He begins to pace the room again, back and forth. It's almost frightening how much the money has changed him already. He's not the man she married at all. He's a stranger. I know, he says, stopping in his tracks. I know what we have to do. I'm going to call Good tomorrow morning and tell him I'll go to the station. But this is how it's going to work.
Chapter 61. Good. Friday morning. By 7 a.m., Good is waiting in a small queue at the entrance to the lobby restaurant at the Omni Plaza Hotel. He's already asked the front-of-house staff if they remember seeing either Ogilvy or Squires recently. A security guard recalled seeing the woman get off an elevator and leave the hotel earlier in the week, but otherwise, there are no witnesses. A pretty hostess with long hair zips around the busy restaurant, seating guests. He waits, watching people on laptops, drinking coffee, reading newspapers. He notices the televisions suspended above the bar, some tuned to sportscasts, the others to the local news. The story has been rotating throughout the morning. Butler's photo, the mugshot of Squires, the photo of Cassandra Ogilvy, the missing woman now wanted for attempted murder. As usual, Dawes is handling the publicity, taking questions in front of the precinct, surrounded by microphones. She looks calm and professional, even though they don't have all the answers yet. Squires is definitely a suspect in Ogilvy's disappearance, but now so is Jason Montgomery. His name hasn't been released in connection with the case, but it's possible he was trying to cover up the affair with his wife's friend. Was that conceited prick actually capable of killing someone? The hostess smiles, plucking up menus. A table for one? Actually, I have some questions, he says, showing his badge. The girl hesitates, but seems cooperative. Good presents the photos of Ogilvy and Squires. I recognize her, the girl says. She was in the other morning. I think Nate served her. She points to a fair-haired waiter in a black apron, notebook poised as he smiles, taking orders. I totally remember her, Nate Langley says when he sees the photo. You sure? Absolutely. I've never served anyone double martinis at 9 in the morning before. A moment later, they've squeezed other servers out of the way and stand at a computer terminal, where Nate taps on the keyboard, flipping back through his orders for the week. It was a couple days ago. Monday? Tuesday? More tapping. Here she is. Good sees an order from Tuesday morning for coffee, toast, 2 double martinis, and a beer. His instincts perk up when he sees the name of the guest who signed for the tab. Matthew Addison, room 915. When he ran a check on the Montgomery landline, there was an outgoing call to a cell phone registered to this man yesterday afternoon, a San Francisco number. It also explains why the couple received 2 incoming calls from this hotel yesterday. Was she staying with this guy, Addison? No,
She came in alone, but he was having breakfast. They ended up talking.
Did they leave together?
Yeah, after about half an hour or so.
Have you seen him since?
For sure. He's been here all week. Must be for a conference or something. He always comes in for breakfast. Just left a little while ago, actually.
Was she with him?
No, he was alone.
Good moves through the lobby of the hotel, past fountains and chairs, to a set of doors indicating conference and meeting rooms. He steps into a wide, quiet corridor. Along one side is a table of pastries, with a few tired-looking business people lined up at the coffee tureen. On the other is a series of doors, some closed, some open. He sees a sign outside one of the rooms, North Star Biochemical Inc., the name of the company on the Visa business card Addison had been using all week. He peers in to see a man in shirt sleeves setting up a PowerPoint presentation at the far end of the room, the screen covered in what looks like Greek symbols. Two women in suits arrange folders around a long boardroom table. "Are you lost?" one of them asks, smiling. The man hasn't noticed him yet, still fussing at the screen. He's prematurely balding, wearing glasses, his suit jacket off. "I'd like to speak to Mr. Addison,"
says Good, motioning to him. She calls down, "Matt?" The man looks up.
"Sorry, this is a closed session,"
he says to Good. He doesn't seem sorry, but rather put out.
"Could we have a word?"
asks Good, holding up his badge. Even across the room, the shield must register, because the man freezes, then turns to the woman nearest him. "Can you finish this up?" The woman nods and goes to the end of the table, looking curiously at Good. "I won't be long," he murmurs, putting his suit jacket on. "This is nothing." It's obvious the gentleman didn't mean to be overheard, but the acoustics are so clear, Good caught every word. The man approaches with an awkward smile. "May I help you?" His face, already pale from a life spent inside boardrooms, is now blanched. "I just have a few questions." "Can it wait? I'm getting ready for a busy day here." "Shouldn't take long." Good holds the door for him. In the corridor, he gives Addison his business card. He likes to present his card, especially to people like this. Business cards were familiar, responsible. They gave a person credibility. When the man reads the card, homicide, he seems to deflate and tense up at the same time. Good motions to low couches set up around an empty coffee table. "Have a seat, Mr. Addison." They sit down at an angle to each other, sunlight filtering through potted plants around them. Good notices the wedding ring, the darting eyes, the stiff posture.
"Can I ask why you're staying at the hotel, Mr. Addison?"
"I'm a biochemical engineering consultant," he says. "I live in San Francisco, but I've been hired by a firm here to handle an appeal on a ruling by the EPA against them. District Court of Appeals is just a couple of blocks away. I'm sorry I can't tell you more, it's confidential." "That's fine," Good says. He doesn't even want to know more, but biochemical engineer explained the Greek he'd seen on the screen. He produces the photo of Ogilvy and lets him look at it in silence for a few beats too long. "Do you recognize this woman?" The man stares at the image, takes a deep breath, and hands it back. "Yeah, I think I saw her on the news this morning."
"Mr. Addison, I know you had breakfast with her on Tuesday, so please don't,"
he interrupts, looking around. "I can't talk about this here."
"No problem,"
he says, standing up.
"We can go down to the station instead."
"No, I don't want to do that either." He manages to smile at a passing suit, who disappears into the meeting room.
"All right."
Good sits down again.
"How do you know her, Mr. Addison?"
The man's gaze shifts around, his voice quiet. "I met her the other morning, in the restaurant."
"Tuesday, yes, Nate told me."
Good notices Addison's jaw clench. It seems Nate wouldn't be getting any more big tips. "He also told me you bought this woman drinks, and had one yourself, at barely 9 in the morning. Then you left the restaurant together. I'm assuming to go up to your hotel room, correct?" "It's not something I do on a regular basis, trust me."
You didn't answer me.
We went to my room, yes, he says, his voice barely a whisper. It was stupid, I know. She could have robbed me. Worse.